I think after the first and second generation after the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, racism got reintroduced in the Muslim community. You find it even in some of the tafsir books when they talk about a black person, how they will go into certain details that are unnecessary. Even when they talk about somebody as Luqman Hakim, they want to talk about the size of his lips, the size of his feet. I don't know who else in the whole Quran who you will want to describe. Right? Why do you need that?
No, I'm not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
I really appreciate what you said because it's different sometimes than the activist woke type of mentality where it's just to blame. You know what I mean? It's like it's the other. It's like, they're the bane of all our problems, the bane of our existence. But what you said, I feel it's like some very sage wisdom that people need to pay attention to. That the one that you have the most control in terms of actions, the one action that you can change immediately is your own. So you do deal with people who have racist attitude. You have systemic racism. You may not be able to change that overnight, and it may take time, and it's a battle of attrition. But you have control over your own character. You have control over what you say, what you do, how you feel, how you think about things, and that can have a dramatic impact. I've seen people who were just ignorant, just boneheaded. But then they interacted with somebody that just completely destroyed their entire racist paradigm just by that one-on-one type of interaction. So for us to take responsibility and show, I think, that moral consistency within our own community. Hey, if we're telling the world that we need to end racism and we need to bring justice, we need to start that with our own communities at home. I really like those advices. Shaykh Yaffa, similarly with you, how can the Islamic perspective, how can the Islamic guidance give us harmony through this period of us trying to get justice systemically? When you have people who will be resistant, and you could have, for example, you could at this point, and many people are talking about this. It's like, what is the hot button activist issue for the day? And so right now, because of what's happening in the United States, it's focusing on, this is BLM, Black Lives Matter, all the oppression that's occurred to Black people. But, tomorrow it might switch to something else, right? It just goes, it's like this, injustice or these oppression Olympics, like who's being oppressed next. And that's the one that we're going to give. But why? And then you'll come back to it. We'll come back to Black. Oh, yeah. Remember, they're still being oppressed, and we'll come back to it. So what is the difference? How can Islam really show our teachings? How can it show a better way, a more harmonious way, a way that will last? So something that's not just going to be a short-term solution.
SubhanAllah, that's a very important question, and I'm happy Dr. Quick said those words, because that's the beginning. A lot needs to be done. One thing we can do is to practice our deen properly, and bring proper tarbiyah in our homes, proper etiquette of Islam in our homes. I've lived in Southeast Asia a little bit, and in Europe, and in the Arab world, and West Africa, of course, where I come from, and here. And mostly I've lived with Muslims, and like we all know, it exists in homes, it exists in the lingo of the people. I think after the first and second generation after the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, racism got reintroduced in the Muslim community. You find it even in some of the tafsir books when they talk about a black person, how they will go into certain details that are unnecessary. Even when they talk about somebody as Luqman Hakim, they want to talk about the size of his lips, the size of his feet. I don't know who else in the whole Quran who you will want to describe. Right? Why do you need that? Mm-hmm. Why is that? And then this introduction of Alf Layla wa Layla, the Arabian Nights, which actually it really grounded racism in the Muslim community. Again, if you read it, anytime they talk about black person, there are certain descriptions they give that. So somebody wrote this, and because it's beautiful, it's a chain. So when I was doing languages, the chain where the way they told the story is just beautiful, where you get the Aladdin story and so on and so forth. So it got introduced, and literature also inculcated it. So we have to really dismantle that language. If you live in some of our Muslim worlds and you see how they're describing, you read the literature, even in class, people forget, even as a black person, you're talking to someone, they forget that you're black because it's just a concept now in their head, right? But because they're interacting with you, there is no problem. The trust develops. But the children that they are telling it, those children just, when they see somebody that they don't interact with, what comes to their mind is the images, right? So they grow with that kind of feeling. So we have to really take it out of our lingo. We have to dismantle it and change it.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.